items that are rather easy, and we will blow through those first. I will, everybody got the revised agenda for tonight, committee members?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks so much. So we'll just get these two base renewal licenses out of the way. I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm just gonna combine them. So it's Metro. And, sorry, Metro Line. And my technology is failing me today. Sorry, folks, bear with me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Let me just do a quick attendance. Brusadas is here. Gina Argento.
Here.
Simon Weiser. Aaron Drinkwater. William Goldstein. Paul Kelterborn.
Here.
William Klagsbald.
Here.
Nieves is not here. Mario Domerick.
I'm here.
Thank you. William Vega.
Here.
Mr. Akul. See him. No. Bronwyn Breitner. I don't see her either. Kevin Costa. Here. All right, that's 7. I expect Bronwyn later. And Simon usually jumps in at some point. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, base renewal license. If there's no objections, we'll do 1 and 2 together. So mobile number 1 car service and Metroline car service. Joanna has not sent me any complaints about either. Joanna, you don't have any updated complaints or any issues with the precincts with them?
No.
Okay, so let me ask for a vote to approve these base renewals.
I'll make the motion, Eric.
William
Paul makes
second.
them up. William Vega.
It's William Quaxwell, that doesn't matter.
Oh, sorry, William. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at my screen. Okay, thanks, William. Second. And all in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, great. So I don't know if anybody was on the call from those two companies, but you're good to go. And these will be voted on at the next board meeting, which I want to say is March 11th. But anyway, it'll go to the full board, and I don't expect it to be rejected. And okay, so the next item, which was the revised item, is a street co-naming request for the corner of Keep Street and South 3rd Street in honor of NYPD Detective William Mora, who was killed in the line of duty January 22nd. The request came from Jennifer Gutierrez's office on behalf of his parents, Bowdy, I hope I'm saying that right, and Amalia Mora, and Captain Jay Tavares, the executive officer of the 32nd Precinct, and I see them all patiently sitting there on screen. I want to thank you for coming tonight, making the time. I'll recognize either the captain or Mr. and Mrs. Mora to say a few words about your son and how we can honor his memory.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, both parents are not fully fluent in English, so I'm going to speak on their behalf. This is what I have. These are the remarks that I have. Good evening, distinguished members of Community Board 1 and its Transportation Committee. My name is Captain Jose Taveras, and until recently, I was Executive Officer of the 32nd Precinct. With me here today, I have Amalia Mora and Badui Mora, Detective Wilbert Mora's strong and amazing parents. First of all, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. We're here to respectfully request that the corner of Keep Street and South 3rd Street in Williamsburg be co-named Detective Wilbert Mora Street to honor our fallen hero. This location holds special importance to the family because this is the location where the primary school that he attended, PS-19, which is now known as Brooklyn Arbor Elementary School, that he attended when he moved as a child to the United States from the Dominican Republic. This is also a neighborhood to which the family has strong ties to this day and where they lived most of their time in the United States. As many of you know, on the fateful and tragic night of Friday, January 21st, 2022, then police officer Wilbert Mora, along with his partner, police officer Jason Rivera, and the third officer, rookie police officer Sumit Sulan, they responded to a domestic dispute within the confines of the 32nd Precinct. Upon arrival, they made contact with the caller, a lady who stated that she was having a dispute with her adult son. As officers Mora and Rivera attempted to approach a bedroom to speak to this individual in order to mediate the dispute, the caller's son ambushed them both before they even had a chance to say hello to him. Although Detective Rivera succumbed to his injuries that same night, Detective Mora survived for 4 days and died on January 25th, 2022. These 4 days meant that Detective Wilbert Mora continued to serve others even after his death, because his organs were donated to 5 separate individuals who now, thanks to him, get a chance to live full, beautiful lives. What can I say about Detective Mora? I can tell you that he represented the best of us. He was a 27-year-old who had immigrated to the United States from the Dominican Republic at the age of 7 and was now striving to achieve the American dream. He was a great police officer, someone who led by example and policed the Harlem community with empathy, professionalism, and bravery. Detective Mora took great pride in serving the public, and he was a natural leader who took younger officers under his wing to teach them how to do their job well. Yet Detective Wilbert Mora was so much more than a great police officer. He was a dedicated son who brought joy, love, and happiness to his parents. He was an avid video game player who was a natural connector of people. He was the glue that held all his friends together. He was the one friend that they knew they could reach out to at any time of the night, and he would pick up their phone call. He was a kind and generous soul. In the last year, I have had the privilege of spending many hours with Detective Wilbert Mora's family, and I have been struck by how strong, kind, and tenacious they are. I hope you can grant the request for the street co-naming at this corner that brings his parents and the rest of the family so many fond memories of Detective Mora as a happy and careless young child. I hope that seeing that sign brings them some solace and helps them with the tremendous sorrow that they feel in their hearts. Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions to the parents, I'll be more than happy to translate for them. Te quiero decir algo. Gracias. Mr. Badui Mora says, thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Mi respeto para ellos.
His respect goes to you.
Muchas gracias y para mí sería un honor que pudiera hacer eso por Wilber.
Mrs. Amalia says, thank you. It would be an honor for her if you can accept the co-naming for the street for Wilbur.
No sé.
Eric, you're muted.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Captain, Mr. and Mrs. Mora. Personally, so sorry for your loss. As the son and a nephew of a police officer, I deeply understand your pain. I pass the Arbor School at least once or twice a week for work, and it would be an honor to see Detective Mora's name up there, pending the vote of the board. I really don't have any questions. I thought your statement, Captain, was very eloquent. I will ask you to, if you can email that to the board office, just so I can have it for the record. I see you were reading it. I'd love to put that in the record for the rest of the board to see. I don't know if anybody on the committee has any questions or comments for the panel. Okay, hearing none. I just want to thank you three again for coming. I know this still must be, very painful for you all. And so I'll just ask for a motion to approve the co-naming request for the corner of Keep Street and South 3rd Streets in honor of NYPD Detective Wilbert Mora.
I can motion to approve the street naming
That's
as requested.
And William
Kevin.
Vega seconds.
Kevin, William, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. So, Captain and Mr. and Mrs. Mora, the full board meets. Let's see, is it March 7th? I don't know why I thought it was the 11th. It's a Saturday, March 7th. The full board will vote that time to make the approval, and that'll give us enough time to get the request into Councilmember Gutierrez to make sure that it makes it to the City Council for approval, and we'll get that sign up as quick as DOT can. And thanks again for coming tonight.
Should I email the statement to the Community Board 1 email?
Yes, please. The BKO1, etc.
I will do so right now. Thank you all so much for your time.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. So that was heartbreaking. But anyway, so thank you. And then we had a very light agenda. We'll jump into old business. I know folks have some old business. I'll just state that Meeker Avenue was on the docket, but the team, the members of the team that we needed to be here to explain what the progress and schedule is. Sorry, my dog. The progress and schedule couldn't be here. We do have plans for the Berry Street presentation next month. But I do not want a rehash of the Berry McGinnis marathon meeting. So we may schedule a separate meeting just for Meeker updates. I was hoping to have an answer on that by tomorrow, but I don't think I will. But I should be able to get an answer by sometime early next week on when that will be. I will beg the committee's indulgence to make time for 2 meetings, especially since this one promises to be somewhat abbreviated. But never say never. Past experience dictating. But anyway, I just wanted folks to to know that, why we were expecting to see Meeker and we're not talking about Meeker. The other thing is those of you who attended the full board meeting understand there was no vote of the full board or anything to do a subcommittee. Chair Fuller has not impaneled the subcommittee, and therefore we can assume that it is not going to exist. But we will form a working group, which I apologize to Paul and Mary and some other people that have expressed interest. But I will also work on that over the weekend and into the next week. But Fashion Week kind of got in the way. So, but that will be an ongoing thing. We will still hope to get that that district needs statement updated by June, so we can get it to Gina. I'll be reaching out to a couple, and anybody's, I think you all have an email, you can all reach out to me if you're interested in being in the working group. We will go forward with that. I will also say that it might be useful to attend the budget meeting. I don't know offhand when that is scheduled for, but I believe.
Simon.
Hey, Simon, how you doing? That's 8 now. Let me add you to the tally. Simon, we're an old business, just so you know where we're at.
Hi, good to see you.
Oh, hello.
Transportation Committee meeting without minutes, no quorum. I'm so
William.
upset. I can't have 5 minutes.
William, hot mic. Where you at? Where'd he go? Is he on his
He's
cell
muted.
phone?
He's muted now, Eric.
Oh, there he goes. Okay. Thank you. Anyway, so keep an eye out for that. And again, if you're interested in being on the working group, email me and copy Chair Fuller and the board office, please, for transparency. And we will go from there. Okay. And let's see. So another piece of old business, folks. Did everyone, in addition to the updated agenda, folks saw the two documents that got sent out this morning for discussion? One was on Commercial Street, and I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't get a chance to forward your revised plan. I did get a chance to take a look at it, but if you, well, you could just share the screen and we can work through it when you're recognized. But I just wanted to, first of all, did everybody see the letter from Councilman Ressler's office regarding Commercial Street?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
yes.
one. Anybody else? Okay. So Ruby Emily in Councilman Ressler's office had sent around a letter. They're asking for the board's support for it. I'm of two minds with this letter. And the first part, I don't have a problem with the letter per se, except it's a little specific. And, you know, those veterans will know how this works. You know, DOT has already said that they are, you know, they're working on a transportation study for this area due sometime before the summer, late spring. And you know, well, maybe I'll just read it for those of you that didn't get a chance to look at. Sorry. Okay. Now this is going to Keith Bray, Borough Commissioner. We, the undersigned Greenpoint representatives, are writing to urge you to implement safety improvements along the commercial street and DuPont Street around the Greenpoint Playground. Currently, children and community members face dangerous crossing to access the playground and are forced to cross a confusing two-way street at both DuPont and Commercial. In order
Yeah.
to create a safer, William,
And
Yeah.
if I step out, it's all quorum, but I can't do both.
William, there you go. Okay. Where was I? In order to create a safer intersection, we are asking that you make Commercial Street a one-way eastbound street between DuPont and Box Streets and make DuPont Street a one-way westbound street between Franklin West Commercial Streets. Greenpoint Playground is a crucial open space for the community, and safety improvements like those outlined above are necessary to ensure that these families can use the playground safely. Thousands of new residents have moved into towers along Greenpoint waterfront over the last decade, and many new residential buildings are currently under construction. Our street safety infrastructure is not kept pace with the growing population, and much needed street safety infrastructure improvements to accommodate these new community members are still years away. While we look forward to long-term capital projects of the DOT, such as continuing the protected bike lane, extending the Brooklyn Greenway, we firmly believe street safety improvements are needed immediately around Greenpoint Playground, considering the massive growth of Greenpoint community in this area and utilization of the playground and the park and esplanade space along the waterfront. We request swift action by the Department of Transportation to implement these critical safety changes. Thank you, etc. So again, so this goes back to something that triggers me. It goes back to my experience before I was on the board. We were looking to turn Maspeth into a one-way eastbound to cut down on the commercial traffic that was
Anybody saying that?
shortcutting. William. Okay. And at that time, the Transportation Committee, we had, suggested specifically a one-way, and at that time, the Transportation Committee and the full board would not support a specific ask from the community. But what they did do is to ask for a transportation study to investigate that request. And we did not get that one way. And that's a long, long time ago now. But since then, obviously, those of you that have been paying attention, we've gotten a lot of other safety improvements, some speed humps, and it has cut down on the commercial traffic a little bit. Anyway, so those are my concerns with this letter. It's one thing for electeds to sign on to it, who are getting, comments from their constituents. And this is, like, as I said, headed up by Councilman Ressler's office. But in the email that Ms. Ruby had sent to me, they had secured the support of Nydia Velasquez, Emily Gallagher, and obviously Lincoln is lending his support to it. So it's not that I am opposed to endorsing safety measures. I think, I've been over there a couple times since this first came up, and it is, well, I've known this area for a while. It has always been kind of treacherous. There are a lot more residents there now. There does have to be a new balance, but because they are, currently studying the program, I don't know that it's appropriate for us to sign on to a letter or ask the board to sign on to a letter that currently has a study underway. I think if we wanted to make a separate motion to the borough commissioner, saying that we, understand that there's a safety study underway, and we hope that it will address the concerns of the residents. that's another issue, but usually the role of the board is to ask for studies, and we have a study going. So anyway, that's my spiel. I don't know whose hand went up first, but I'll say Paul, then Kevin, and then Jen, I see your hand. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Eric, I was gonna make that suggestion that maybe we don't sign on to this letter, but we write a separate letter requesting a study and maybe, particularly requesting that they focus on, these particular possible fixes. That might be a good kind of like middle ground approach.
Reasonable. Kevin?
Hi.
Okay.
I was just going
Go
to
ahead.
say that I know that there's been like a lot of work going on, with various different like organizations, including transportation alternatives, but there's been really a grassroots movement coming from like a lot of the residents within the community, and they've been doing a lot of business outreach and have a petition going. So I don't see why it wouldn't make sense for us to support this, especially given that they've gotten so much elected official support, and that we on the community board, we ourselves kind of, we have constituencies. We're not elected officials, obviously, but we're representatives in many ways of our community. And I also wanted to recognize that he's not on the board, but Zach is on the call tonight, and he is one of the people that is driving this this initiative. So I think it would be great if we were to give him a couple of moments to speak. I know that there are a couple of committee members that have their hands up, but I think it would be great to recognize him.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I mean, we've heard from Zach before. I will recognize board members first. Jen, just hold tight. I'm gonna go to committee members first, so I'll recognize Bronwyn, then we'll do Jen. Unless Jen, you want to defer to Zach, and then I'll hear from you. We could do it that way too.
That's fine with me.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Okay, Ms. Breitner, you have the floor.
Hi, sorry, I joined the meeting late. I think we should, recognize also that there has been a lot of community organizing that's gone into this initiative from people who live right there. So that's relevant to me. I also, Eric, as you know, I had been just looking into some of the local petitions to see what kind of activity there's been recently. And I think there have been like over 100 signatures for this petition in the last month or so, or since the beginning of the year. And I think there's about 250 petition signatures supporting this initiative since it was started in the end of 2022. So I don't know. I just think I kind of agree with Kevin that like when we have community organizing that from locals who are really impacted by the studies, like it just helps to give the DOT more ammunition to do a more comprehensive or aggressive or impactful proposal rather than just kind of leaving it in their hands. Because I think that sometimes that ends up in, maybe lowest common denominator improvements rather than, maybe what's best. So I also would be supportive of a letter supporting these asks, but I think, we should have a motion to write a letter either way.
Okay, thank you, Bronwyn. Mr. Eisenstadt, you're recognized. Unless is there any other board committee? No. Okay, Mr. Eisenstadt, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much for letting me speak and, as not a board member at this moment, but I did just want to say how meaningful it would be for the people of this community if Community Board 1's Transportation Committee were to sign on to this. I think it is just the beginning, and I think that the DOT has offered no concise timeline other than 3 to 5 years. Maybe it gets pushed up a little bit, but I can tell you that the people who live here, who commute here, who work here, I've talked to many of the businesses. I don't have the numbers on me, but most of them are on board with this. I think that delaying and allowing the DOT to find ways to do less than is actually necessary and would be most impactful to the community is an oversight. And I think taking action to protect and invigorate and encourage the community that's growing here would be an incredible sign of faith across from our electeds, our community board, and the community in general, which is already on board with this. I think you know, we've seen half measures and they don't really lead to much. Small things over time, which is great, but that doesn't prevent the deaths or injuries or the danger that is between now and when those things happen. So I think taking decisive action and making it very clear how people who are living in the community, people who represent the community, and people who look out for the community are all on one page on this, I think would be an incredible sign to move forward and get the DOT and government to actually make action happen. I think this is common sense. This is a very clear solution to making this part of Greenpoint safer and better, and essentially an action that should have probably taken place before all the buildings went up. This would at least retroactively do some good. I appreciate you all talking about it. I couldn't appreciate Lincoln's office more for putting this forward to you and for coming out to our rally the other day. Again, you know, a rainy, cold day, about 100 people showed up who care about this specific issue in the community. And hundreds have signed the petition, and it's all just been in the winter and cold. So I think there's a lot of momentum. I would truly and deeply appreciate this transportation committee's support in making change now rather than waiting for change to happen later. I'm just so moved by the way that the community has gotten up around this. And, you know, Eric, just to hear you talk about how when you wanted Meeker one way, I get that there are changes that can come down the line, but I think that if Meeker had been one way back then, it probably would have been just as good, if not better, from the beginning. And so, you know, finding a way to stand up and try to make the change we want rather than the change the DOT wants, I think it would be amazing. And I appreciate you giving me the time to speak.
Thank you. No problem. And I think I misspoke. I have Meeker on my mind, but it was Maspeth that we're trying to get turned into a one-way, not Meeker. But
Maspeth too.
No, I think I might have said Meeker because like I do that a lot these days as I age into senility. Anyway, so thank you for that, Zach and Jen. And Zach, if you could take your hand down, that'd be great. And Jen, you have the floor.
Hi there.
Jen, can I
thank you
get
so
your
much.
last name for the record, please?
Silvestri.
Spell that.
Silvestri. I'm the
Gotcha.
one that wrote in about McGinnis and Greenpoint Avenue intersection, and I know that's been spoken about before, so it's old business, but it really just goes along with what you're just talking about up in that northwest corner by Box. It's the same thing. There's such an increase in foot traffic with all the new construction and people moving into Greenpoint, and then with COVID, I don't have the stats on this, but I know that there's been such an increase in cars that my parking garage, has a waiting list now. So there's just like Greenpoint is booming right now, and that's so great. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have some proactive measures in place for safety, specifically at the corner of McGinnis and Greenpoint Avenue, and in several sections of McGinnis. I'm walking with an 18-wheeler in my face because the sidewalk is covered, and there's been several close calls with me and my neighbors, and we're all sort of like, okay, it's been about a year that this corner has been closed off to foot traffic and everybody's walking in the street to get around it. So how do we make that safe? Like, it's just a matter of time before something horrible happens. That's all I wanted to say, is that there's just such a need, and Make McGinnis Safe has like over 4,000 signatures on their petition. So like people are interested and want things to happen.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Jen. Did you have anything on Commercial Street? We kind of jumped ahead. We could have, I was gonna address your issue, but
Okay, forgive
let
me, no.
let me well, let me just say this now, is that I have not heard back more from DOT about the site. It did meet the HYCRA requirements, but we know that the physical situation is not meeting the requirements to make it safe. I'm continuing to look at this. I'm over there quite often, and I guess it was last week. I was actually on Greenpoint Avenue, and I was able to pull over and just kind of watch the flow at around, I guess it was 10:30, and it was chaotic. So it's on my mind. I'm looking at it, and I hope to have a more substantive answer either at probably not by the environmental committee, but hopefully by the next meeting. So thank you for bringing that up. But just bringing it back to Commercial Street. So does anybody else want to speak on Commercial Street?
Yes, Simon.
Simon, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to be, as you said before, I'll be cautious about this because any change you make, it sometimes has an impact, a negative impact of the flow of traffic and all that. It has to be made sure that this will have no, impact, worse, a negative impact of the, traffic around and around. So I have to make sure that we're doing the right thing, supporting. We have to hear from all. I'm sure there are who are against this plan. I mean, I don't know. Do we get any comments about against this plan?
I did. No, I haven't. I do remember when actually I heard about this before it was brought to committee. And it was one of our neighborhood skeptics that I communicate with on a bunch of different issues. But they were not against it. But knowing the history of Commercial Street and all the nightmares that we've been through over there, they were concerned that there might be. But I think their concern was more the West Street area and all the problems we've had with West Street and Commercial over the years, both for zoning and all kinds of other problems. Folks that have been on the committee been on the board for a while are familiar. I don't have the details on them right now, but there's been like different projects that wanted to go in there. They wanted to close Commercial Street. There were all kinds of like crazy things that were happening about 5 or 6 years ago now. Maybe I think that's right. Mary, you might remember that when they were trying to close down Commercial Street. But anyway, that never came to pass. So, and thank you, Simon. I did say, to your point, I think it would be, I don't have it, like I said, I don't have a problem sending a letter or asking the board to send a letter. I just don't think that we can sign on to this letter. So I think it would be reasonable. And again, since the transportation study is currently underway, I think it would be appropriate to meet both sides halfway. So Mr. Eisenstadt and his neighbors, and then, Bronwyn and Kevin's points. So there are specific asks in this letter. I think that it's appropriate that as a committee, hearing from the public, and Bronwyn, I know you're going to talk about this later. I've seen some of these Commercial Street emails, but if Mr. Eisenstadt, if you could just maybe do an Excel sheet with with the number of signatures or something, a packet or something that you could send to the board office for the in one packet, because when we get them piecemeal, it's hard I try to keep account, but it's very difficult. Anyway, all that to say, there is support for these particular changes. I don't know that these are appropriate or if these will work with the traffic flow exactly. I don't want to let DOT off the hook, as Mr. Eisenstadt suggested, that they're just going to do, you know, what they want, which could be nothing. So I think it's appropriate to draft a letter supporting the community, saying that the board supports DOT's continued efforts to study this section of Greenpoint along the Commercial Street corridor, and that we ask them to pay special attention to the specific at the DuPont, as well as West Street, and write our own letter, because the electeds, you know, it's funny that the electeds come to us asking for a sign on, because usually it's you know, we're asking them to support something. So and Lincoln sits on the for Councilman Ressler sits on the transportation committee in the city council. So you know, there's a lot of weight behind this already. So I think we can split the baby and let DOT know that we're paying attention, ask them to focus on these particular areas during their study, and then report back to us in June, or, well, we have a tentative for June, so, or as soon as possible or something like that. So I'll take a motion for that, unless somebody has another suggestion. Okay,
So
Paul?
could I just, to clarify the letter, can it say specifically ask them to focus on these
Yes.
proposed solutions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because even when we did the Maspeth letter, we asked DOT for a study asking to specifically look at the impact of a one-way conversion for Maspeth. And I just as I was hearing Mr. Eisenstadt, I thought of another. There was another instance where it's going back a while. It'll come back to me anyway. So yes, we can say, without signing on to this letter, we can send our own letter saying, while you're studying this thing, look at DuPont, look at the playground, look at West Street, you know, on the commercial corridor.
Okay. And
And-
consider these
Go ahead.
directional changes and stuff that that the community has, you know, put forth as possible.
Well, what I'll do is I'll cut and paste the specific ask from the community letter into our letter, and saying that something like, DOT, we understand that there is a study underway for blah, blah, blah. After hearing at several meetings from the public, they have voiced their concerns to look at XYZ. We encourage DOT to consider this as they continue to study the area, or something. You know, it'll be more tactful than that, obviously, but that's my spiel.
Okay.
So I don't know. Let's see, motion. So I guess I really don't want to make a motion, but I'll have to state it, right? So motion would be draft.
Before
Yes, go
we
ahead,
make a
Kevin.
motion, sorry, I had
Go
my
ahead.
hand up.
I see you. Go ahead.
I really think that, you know, we've had a lot of community support, and that there have been like a lot of people like who have come to, you know, me and Zach, and we have community members who have come out and said, like, this is a ticking time bomb, you know, people are going to get hurt. And we've had thousands of new residents move into this specific area. And this is also not a new issue. This has been brought to the board in 2016, 2017. I really think that it would be inappropriate to say, we encourage DOT to complete this study that they're already doing, but just to focus on this particular area. I think that we have the power and honestly the moral responsibility to say, like, people are coming to us and saying that they don't feel safe and there is inadequate infrastructure. We as a community board are supporting what elected officials are already calling for. To Bronwyn's point, we need to give DOT we need to push them at every way possible. And I really feel like I would have blood on my hands if we were to say, keep doing the study that you're already doing at the pace that you're already doing, and someone were to get hurt or injured, because people have been sounding the alarm for quite a while, and we know that there are thousands more people who are living with subpar infrastructure, and that DOT is not moving fast enough. Like, lives are at stake. And you know what is being asked for is widely supported by the new residents within the neighborhood and also the businesses in the neighborhood. So I really would push or encourage us to sign on to this letter, so that way we can give DOT all the pressure to move forward with this study as fast as possible, and to implement specific infrastructure asks as soon as possible. Because, you know, like we sure, we can study and we can study and we can study, and you know, people might get hurt in the meanwhile. So I really would push back against just doing the status quo, you know?
Okay. Well, Kevin, I hear your passion. I understand your point. But here's the reality is that they're not going to just implement this without a study. The study is happening. Like, you have to work within the bureaucracy, and I understand that's frustrating. And I do hear your passion.
But we're adding to the
But
bureaucracy
no, Kevin, stop, Kevin. So what I'm saying is there is a study underway while DOT is implementing. So we're actually ahead, right? Because we don't have to ask them for a study. The study is happening, and I think this may have come from Lincoln's office that the study is even happening as we speak, right? So you know, an elected official can say, you know, whatever they want in terms of you know, we need this now, and et cetera, and that's appropriate for their job. Our job as the community board is to say, we've heard from the community, this is the community's concerns, you are studying this proposal, please see if this works for you know, see the feasibility. And I'll go, and the example I was thinking of before that I couldn't quite remember was the Collier Street triangle. Even with the great plan that oh my God, his name's right out of my head right now. Is it another Kevin? Dan Keyser. Thank you. Wow. You know, even with that great plan that I loved, we asked DOT to study it and look at his plan, and see if it was feasible. And then, you know, it wasn't, unfortunately, but we had to go through, you know, a couple different things to make sure that the whole pattern worked. And we have an improvement there. It's not as improved as I would have liked, but it is better. And so that's the precedent too. So yes, we're hearing from the committee, from the community on this. We're not saying we don't want this. We're saying we're asking a very specific thing. We're asking them to focus on these items while they are doing the study. That's it. So last point, Kevin, and then Bronwyn.
Sure. What I'm hearing though is that we would rather drag our feet and to not support something that we know is going to benefit the community in order to wait for a traffic study.
We don't
to
know.
ensure-
We don't know that, Kevin. We
to
don't
ensure
know
that-
we do not know. We do not know what the different physical conditions are that are. Now, I'm not saying I don't support these ideas. I think they are all good ideas.
Mhm.
But I'm not a traffic engineer. And, you know, because of that, I am not going to say that do this or else. We didn't do that with Collier. We didn't do that with Maspeth. We haven't done that in other situations. So, and the study is happening. It is not dragging our feet. It is giving the DOT additional information to say that we are hearing from the community that XYZ is important, and that you should factor that into your study to make sure that it is feasible.
Sorry,
And that's it.
I don't want to take up too much more time because I definitely want to hear Bronwyn's thoughts, but I wasn't quite finished before he chimed in, Eric. I feel that as a community board, we have a responsibility to do what's right by the people. And I know just anecdotally as a person who crosses the street every day, as someone who is on the street, as someone who hears what Zach and community members have to say, that we don't need a traffic study to say that a crosswalk is going to be beneficial to people crossing the street. Now, I agree, traffic engineers need to do their jobs, but I think that some of the basic asks that elected officials are calling upon, and one of the reasons why elected officials so easily were able to sign on to this letter is because it's so egregiously bad and it's also so obvious. And I feel like we're kind of abdicating our duties as community board members by saying we don't want to even encourage the board to sign on to this letter of support, but rather we would just let the DOT do their study as they were going to anyway. So I really would push back again, Eric, and say that like just because we haven't done this in the past doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing it more actively in the future. Because quite frankly, we should have fought harder for Collier. We should have fought harder for Maspeth. We should have been fighting harder for Meeker and McGinnis. And there are countless examples and countless lives that have been lost because DOT wants to do a study, and in the meanwhile, the traffic conditions that are kind of dangerous to everyone continue to stay the way that they are, and people die. So we have a responsibility, and I really think that we'd be losing out on a really great opportunity to sign on to something that elected officials are already gung-ho about.
Thank you. Bronwyn?
Approve the motion.
Do you, Eric, what, do you have any response to that, what Kevin just said, or no? I know that you've said your part, but does that move you? Because I feel like I was
Look,
gonna say something
we,
else.
we can sign on to this letter. It'll get voted on next month. It'll get sent out sometime after that. You know, and it's not going to happen right away. So Jerry Esposito fought for 2 years just to get the crosswalk in that light at Richardson and Graham. DOT still had to do a study. It was like endless. So what I'm saying is, it's like, it's fine. Look, it's fine. So, okay. So when we're not in this committee, we all wear different hats, right? And we're like, you know, we're activists and things like that. And I appreciate that it's important. And I don't disagree with Kevin. This is just a process thing, right? It's like, yes, I don't want anybody to die on our streets ever, 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 right? But you know, just because we sign on to a letter is not going to make it happen tomorrow. There's still the mayor's office.
But I don't think that's what Kevin's saying. I think that Kevin's point is like, what are the optics of not signing on to this letter that's been drafted by our elected officials, that's been supported unanimously by community, that we don't have any opposition to? And I don't think that anyone expects that the DOT is just going to accept our recommendation and suddenly implement it without doing their traffic study, or even necessarily that this is going to expedite their process. I mean, one would hope that it would, and why shouldn't it? But of course, there's going to be the bureaucracy behind it. The point is that like the community is united behind, and this is crazy. Like, this isn't even a particularly radical proposal. Like, it's so basic. We're talking about like a 2-block street. We're talking about 2 basically redundant directional streets. This is not a massive, it's at the end of the world, right? Like, this is not like a major ask to make it a one-way street. If this were a radical proposal, then I can understand the point, but like, what are the optics of not signing on to this letter? I feel that we should support our community members who have organized behind a particular initiative. We should propose a unanimous, you know, voice to the DOT saying this is supported universally by residents, elected officials, and community board alike. It's not a major, you know, we ask for stop signs.
We ask for traffic studies. That's what we do as a board. We
And there
ask
is a
for
traffic study, and now we're saying
That's
like
right. There is a traffic study,
that's
and we
this
are
letter's not
asking them,
asking for a traffic study.
and we're asking for, as the study goes on, actually, this would actually probably make the study go longer, because we're asking for particular, and not just our letter, you know, the elected letter. Now maybe they've done the study to look at this, but I'm sure they're not looking, you know, at a one-way street. And a one-way conversion is like a whole thing, right? It's just not even if it's, you know, at the end of the world, as you say, you know, it's
But like the Callier Triangle thing is a good example, and it's unfortunate, I think you agree, that they didn't go as far as we had hoped, but they wouldn't have even considered implementing a pedestrian plaza and eliminating that redundant street if we hadn't asked for it.
well,
Right?
it's not, well, there were facts on the ground that
Can I say
Dan,
something?
1 minute, Mary. There were facts on the ground at Collier that didn't, that just Dan didn't know and couldn't figure into his plan as good as it was. And, you know, we got what we had to get at Collier. I wish it was better, but it's better than it was anyway. So, and again, you know, electeds can ask what electeds want to ask for. We are, you know, a cog in the machine. And so as a cog in the machine, we understand that there is a traffic study happening. We want them to look at these specific things. It's actually a more emphatic letter in a way, because we're asking for them to study specific changes, but from a different vehicle. And, you know, politicians do this to us all the time. They ask us to sign on to letters. They don't, well, not all the time, but when they do, you know, they're looking for our support as like cover sometimes. And this was always, you know, to Jerry's credit, you know, he was always a little bit cautious when they would come to us with this stuff, because well, because Jerry knew how the system was going to work, but then also, you know, not to take a hit. And I'm not concerned about that really, but I am concerned that we ask for studies. That's what we do as a board. And, you know, we can say we want you to look at a one-way conversion. We want you to look at a crosswalk on DuPont. We want you to do this, that, the other, but it's part of the process. So, Mary?
So this in no way is to discredit the letter from the elected officials, but I think we would be setting a precedent if we just rubber stamped this letter and show that we are not willing to wait for more evidence or the study. I think the better idea would be to ask the elected officials to expedite the study so that we can have that in front of us and really move on this. I think that would probably be the better way to go. It is a tricky situation, but you've got to allow a weigh-in from all sides. Otherwise, we're setting a really dangerous precedent for the future. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like the electeds can push in ways that we can't. So
That's why we should support them.
no, it's why we should support the study and detail what we want to look at. We could do a separate, it's a little much, but we could send a separate letter to Lincoln, Nydia, and Emily saying, you know, we have sent a letter asking DOT to study these areas in your letter. We urge you to expedite this study so that changes can be implemented as soon as possible. Could do it-
Eric,
could do it
if
that
I
way.
may, I think that we're
Last
we're
time,
in
Kevin.
many ways self-limiting our ability to, exert the maximum influence that we can. At the end of the day, like we're not able to make any true decisions. DOT is going to do what they want to do. Politicians are going to say what they're going to say. But one, I don't think it's appropriate to say that a politician or a group of politicians are writing this letter for political gain. I think that they're truly
That's not what
representing
I
their
said.
constituents.
That's
But
not what I said.
that is an interpretation, and that's how I took it, frankly. But I will say that at the end of the day, our support of their letter is not supporting a politician's letter. It's in cahoots, in conjunction with the community. We're trying to exert our power over the community board, over the DOT to actually exert our influence and get changes done that need to happen, that should be happening. And I think that it's self-limiting to say, we ask for traffic studies. No, we can ask for the moon. We should be asking for the moon, and we should be asking for the sun. And if we get less than that, then so be it. But we should be asking for as much as we possibly can. And if DOT doesn't want to listen to us, then they're not going to listen to us. But we have the momentum going from the community, from the elected officials, and it's self-limiting to say we don't do that as a community board because. I'm
Thank you.
not
And it-
seeing why we would be in opposition of supporting a letter that has so much momentum, and that it's really asking for, as Bronwyn said, nothing radical. It's asking for basic infrastructure, crosswalks, stop signs, directional changes that would support the community, that honestly should have been thought about before those buildings even went up, and was thought about and raised as a community board before the buildings went up. And now you have 4,000 more people who are living in the area. I think it's 4. And you don't have the infrastructure to support those people. It's a ticking time bomb. So for us to ask for the moon, it seems like the right thing to do, the moral thing for us to do.
Eric, what if the traffic study shows something unexpected or something that may go against what we want? I mean, there's got to be some reconciliation. I'm on the side of caution.
Then you take out the stop sign. Then you take out the crosswalk. Then you undo what you did.
Okay, wait, okay, stop. Kevin, I hear you, and so Mary, good point. Kevin, we're actually doing extra in this case. So let the elected officials send their letter, and then our letter says, hey, we saw this letter from the elected officials. They made these points. The community has made these points. We urge DOT to consider these specific points as you continue your traffic study, and hopefully in an expedited manner. So it's actually supporting the letter in a different way. So, from my activist days, you always wanted letters saying different things going to elected officials if you wanted a piece of legislation passed, right? You always wanted like Group A to have their coalition to sign on to something, and then you wanted somebody else
Eric,
that was, hang on one second, that wasn't that coalition to say something in support of that idea, right? And so it's coming from 2 different places. So in a way, we're actually bolstering the pressure on DOT by saying elected officials who can push in ways that we cannot. We're actually saying, rather than signing on to this letter, we're actually saying, you're studying this, make sure you look at X, Y, Z. So
Is there a reason we couldn't do both?
no, because one is different than the other. Okay, so I'm gonna close this out. Mary, last word, and then we'll make a motion.
okay. So why not why not ask the elected officials to add the points that we made at the meeting tonight to their letter? Why not just amend their letter to include those points?
Well, no. Our letter to DOT is emphasizing the points that there's nothing for them to add. We're saying, we would be saying that we've heard from the elected officials, we've heard from the community. We understand that there is a study, please focus on these points. So it's actually separate. So it's not a situation where, you know, the electeds have already made their ask, right? So they're just asking us to like sign on. We're saying something different. We're saying, you're studying this, we've heard from them. Please focus. In a way, it's a second letter. It's coming from a different point. It's supporting them. But in a way that understands that there is a study going on, and that's what we've always done. And it's not going to, like, if they want to expedite it, I don't know anybody better at expediting things than Lincoln, right? So, and he's already, you know, carrying the torch for this thing. I'm sure he's talking to Keith all the time saying, let's go with this. We're just saying, focus on these items as you're doing your study.
And Eric, I'm supportive. Can I say something?
Last word.
I'm supportive of that. And I think that when we're writing the letter, we should channel Kevin's impassioned urgency and responsibility that we represent as the community board transportation committee, representing the community's heartfelt, unanimous interest in urgent improvements, you know, in that line,
Absolutely.
as you're
Okay.
saying.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so all right, so let's see. Community board wants to draft a letter to NYC DOT to focus on the asks of the elected officials. And then I'll attach their letter as well. So
And
they'll
the
be
petition
seeing their
signatures.
letter, then they're seeing our letter in support of these particular expedited studies for, I'm not going to go through it again, DuPont, the one way, etc. So let me just get the language. Draft letter to DOT to focus on.
You might want to add a date for when you would like to see the study.
Right. Well, we're expecting it in June, but we can say no later than June. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Since they've already said June, let's make sure it's not later than June. And then Emily and Lincoln can beat them up on getting it done faster. Okay. Draft letter to DOT to focus on elements presented. Okay. Sorry, you just bear with me 1 second. Okay, I'll clean this up later, but it's a motion to draft a letter to DOT emphasizing elements, and I'll list them when I have time. Elements reported to us by elected officials and the community in the ongoing study and report to CB1 no later than June 23rd. And the letter obviously will go into what Bronwyn had said, the Kevin's passion and other elements. It'll be a substantial letter. So that is the motion. There a second?
I'll second it. Mary?
Eric? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That was spirited. I thought it was constructive. Kevin, I hear you. I really do. But anyway, I think we're gonna hopefully get what we want over there. We'll see what happens, but I'll work on that letter. Okay, so I think we covered the corner of McGinnis and Greenpoint Avenue. No new updates yet, but we're still looking at it. That's all I had for old business. Did anybody else have old business? Onward.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I emailed you about this today.
Yes, I saw that. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to get back to you.
That's totally fine. I just wanted to bring up a subject I brought up before, which is what seems to be kind of sporadic and unreliable distribution of petition signatures from multiple local campaigns that I know are forwarding to
Oh, no, I just,
oh,
committee meeting.
William Vega, you need to mute yourself, my friend. And hi. You know, I'm close to the McGinnis campaign and my activist hat, and I know that there have been many emails that have been many signatures that have occurred. You know, for example, I just started looking at the beginning of this year. And I know that all of those signatures get forwarded to the board office and they theoretically should be forwarded to each of the committee members. There would have been 133 signatures on that petition since the beginning of the year. And I have 0 emails on that. 367 for Barry, and I have 1 email. Barry Open Street support. 102 for commercial, and I have 16. 17 for Bankers Anchor, and I have 0 emails. And 6 Bedford Slip, and I have 0 emails. And then I don't know how many signatures. I don't have access to the back end of the Free Berry Street petition, but that had the highest number of emails since the beginning of the year by double at 31. So obviously, I mean, you know, one can question the motivations around what's being forwarded or not, and we've kind of talked about that before. But really, I think that this whole concept of, number one, the community board being alerted to support from community members of local campaigns like these that I've listed is really important for the community board to know. And the concept that we are getting bombarded with individual emails with every single signature is sort of absurd. So really what I just wanted to bring up again is talking about a way that we within the board office can try and make this a more equitable and efficient process to get the information to us on the transportation committee and to the chair and to the board, so they know, you know, what are people supporting in our community, without relying on, you know, somebody forwarding an individual email and bombarding and doing that equitably, and also, you know, bombarding our inboxes with each one of those signatures, which is just, I think, futile.
I hear you. I still don't have a good answer for you yet. I know that, you know, I've spoken to Joanna about this, and I know that she is looking at the spam folder. And she is going through on a regular basis. Joanna, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have talked about this. to look for, you know, stuff that gets nested that Do It throws into the spam file. You are right that we are not, I am not seeing now. Just trying to. Yeah, I have seen, the numbers that you're telling me on the other campaigns are I don't have I haven't updated my count yet. But you sound right in the ballpark.
I mean, I just notice it because I feel like I get a lot of free Berry Street emails, and I haven't received a single McGinnis email all year. You
And
know,
you're
so
saying-
that,
Right. I mean, they're standalone emails, right? We're not doing like Survey Monkey or anything, right?
there's standalone emails that
Yeah.
get forwarded automatically to like each one of the elected officials and to the
Yeah.
DOT and to the board office.
I mean, the only thing I can think now, it doesn't explain why we have none because we all know that that's impossible. But the only thing I can think is maybe they're sending it to Emily and to,
I
you know,
checked
to
with
Lincoln and
TA.
DOT.
I checked with TA, yeah, and they sent
Oh,
me
well, if TA's
screenshots.
doing it, then we're definitely getting it.
Yeah, it's all of those ones. That's how I was able to get those numbers because I reached out to TA to see
Got it. Okay.
See what the counts are from the beginning of the year to compare them to my
Right.
emails.
Right. Oh,
So like all of those campaigns together, we have fewer than what we've gotten for the free Berry Street one.
mhm.
Can I make a suggestion? I personally don't want to receive hundreds of emails from.
Me neither.
Right. So couldn't we create a file folder for each one of those categories and have, you know, the emails go there, and then each board member can just click on that file to see what, you know, what the update is on, you know, emails that have come in. That sounds like that would be a more efficient way to store them so that board members can have access and see what's in there rather than sending them out, you know, to all board members, you know, 100 emails at a time. It
Mhm.
makes no sense.
Yeah. It might have been Joanna I was talking to. There was another community board that had a system like that, and then they would send it in a monthly packet.
Yeah.
Joanna, was that you and I that were talking about that?
Yeah, as community board too, that does that.
And can you just, because I'm not remembering it correctly, can you just refresh my memory
They
and
just,
inform?
they just put together all the updates into one newsletter, which is a great thing to do once we have a district manager and the staff, but I'm here by myself.
Come on, you
It's
can't
just
do it
not-
all.
No, impossible.
Right. So that's thank you, Joanna. So that's, you know, that's something that we can do maybe so that kind of covers both things. It's reporting out the numbers we've gotten on particular campaigns, and this is not just transportation, right? This is environmental, this is
Yeah.
land use, whatever, veterans, etc., education. You know, so okay, let's keep talking about this. Bronwyn, I don't have a good answer for you right now. Is the short answer.
Eric, what I could do is contact Do It tomorrow and see
Yes.
if they could send if they could have a tech and see what's going on with the emails, like if they're
Great.
maybe getting blocked somehow, or if
Mhm.
they're not coming up on the inbox once we get them. And see what they tell me. So I'll open a ticket with them tomorrow.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's start there. And we'll keep on this, because this is a concern to me too, because you know, we need to hear like who's
Yeah, I would
supporting
hope
what.
so.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
super concerning. And maybe,
Yeah.
you know, I just know about the campaigns that are TA. Maybe there's something about the way they're distributing them that it's,
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, we could check in with other committees as well to see if they have a similar issue. I have no idea.
The ones from Barry were getting also spam before, and then something came up as if you trusted, and it was released because sometimes they will archive those emails when they come so many. So I had put trusted, and that's why we're getting those now.
But it was funny because I just started looking into this, and then I think it was yesterday, or the day before, I got like
The
12 or
right, the commercial ones, right? So I was
Yeah.
looking at commercial, and I just put the search, and then I saw that there was like 4 or 5 from the 14, and I sent them out yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have to like go and look for them, it doesn't come up in the inbox like a regular email will come up. So it's taking them somewhere else.
Okay, so
Maybe-
let's do it.
Okay.
Let's
Go
do
ahead.
that. Let's put that ticket in to do it because
Okay.
they are the wizards that hold all the answers to these irritating questions of ours. But irritating because we need to know, and there's like one person for the whole city that deals with us. And then I'll follow up with Joanna, and we'll try to maybe get something by next month, maybe,
Right.
hopefully. But that's a big ask. But let's see what happens.
But the newsletter is a great idea for
Yeah,
future.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely
Yeah, yeah.
is. You know.
Once we know what the future of the office is, then we can maybe work that out. But for now, let's just work with Do It. Make sure that they're maybe just kind of light a fire into them to have them understand that we need a little love over here. Because some boards are not asking them any questions, right? So if they have a board with a problem, and this is a problem, we should ask them to kind of prioritize our need to like hear from the community. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna close out this item. Bronwyn, thank you for bringing that up. Important to be constantly reminded of that. I see member of the public, Nicole. So before I go to Nicole, any other board or committee members with old business? Okay.
Eric,
Was that a yes?
that was sorry,
Bronwyn?
just sorry if I missed this earlier, but did we talk about district needs?
Yes. We're not there yet. We're not doing a subcommittee. We're gonna do a working group. Anybody that is interested should email the board office and me.
Okay.
And we'll start working on that the next 2 weeks or something.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, is that it for old business peoples? Okay, good. Okay, Nicole?
Hi.
Hi.
Can folks hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I am a resident of Graham Avenue, Puerto Rico. I'm also
I'm sorry,
Puerto
Nicole, can I
Rican.
get your last name for the record, please?
Nicole Collis.
Spell that for me.
Collis.
Got you. Okay, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. I just came on here today because, from what I understand, there's supposed to be an investigation going on to what happened with the Avenue of Puerto Rico sign. And I just wanted to follow up to see if there's a letter being sent to the DOT, what the timeline for that looks like, and if you have any
Yes.
updates.
So at the last meeting, we had the whole community come out and speak on it, and the board voted to draft a letter to Idanis Rodriguez with a copy to Mayor Adams, Borough President Reynoso, Councilwoman Gutierrez, and Keith Bray at DOT, the Borough Commissioner. Where the investigation is at, I don't know, because we're not likely to hear back from them right away. But I do have a suggestion. Now, I had also hoped that Mr. Zayas and Miss, is it? I can't remember the other organizer's name, but I had hoped that they would come to the full board meeting to speak on it during public session, but they couldn't make it. But I'm glad you're here to follow up. And are you part of the coalition, Nicole?
What coalition are you speaking of?
Aha. I gotta go into my, hold on one second. I will tell you the name of the coalition. Bear with me. Buppity-doo. Don't have it. You know what? I will. If you email the board office, it's bko1 at cb.nyc.gov. I will look up the coalition email and I will forward it to you. So there is a coalition Alejandro Zayas is kind of running that show, and Sonia Velasquez. I don't know if you know them, but they're the ones that organized the rally on Moore Street back in January. I don't know if you were there. But they're the ones that organized that, and they're pushing as well. But the reason I asked if you were on the coalition is because, and if there's anybody else on the call that's part of the coalition, please raise your hand. Because I wanted to say, I don't have the date for it, but there is an upcoming City Council Transportation Committee. And what it would be good to do is because, the community board has done, what it can do. We sent the letter. We said that the community expects Commissioner Rodriguez to come down and personally apologize. We would love if that happened, but short of that, we want to get a full explanation of how that decision was made and how that they are going to ensure that it never happens again, not only for Avenue of Puerto Rico, but any of the other co-named streets, that people have done the work to get it done. And if you bear with me for 1 second, I had it up. Yeah, I don't have their. Okay, I don't have the calendar up right away, but I would suggest that you go to the next Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure at the City Council, and just keep the pressure up to get an explanation, because the more because at this point it's the elected officials that really need to beat the drum to get a full statement from DOT as to how and why this happened, and a commitment that it's never going to happen again. We have heard that through the ether, but it's not enough, right? We want to really hear a full-throated apology and a commitment that it's not going to happen again. So that's all I can say. But Nicole, thanks for coming and bringing that up again. Anybody else hold business? Kevin, is your hand up, or did you want to?
Sorry.
That's okay. Bronwyn.
I just had two little old business things that we talked about last month that we said we would revisit this month. One was the street cleaning, that you were going to reach out to sanitation to see if there's any word on reverting to 2 days from 4.
I did say that, and I don't have an answer for you. That's only in specific areas, although
I think there's like a
There's-
whole.
there was
It's
something in the news. Thought I heard it on New York One where they were asking to specifically for our neighborhood. I forget. They were asking to roll it back to to just 2 days a week, alternate side. I forget where I heard that. I don't have an answer for you, is the bottom line, but I'm sorry. But I don't think we have a determination yet. Because I think I would have remembered if we had a determination, but I apologize for not having an answer. I will definitely have an answer. You know what, I'll get you an answer by the full board meeting and I'll report it out as the full board. I'll add it to the report for the record.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
What was your other thing?
The other one was, I thought Rhonda had said that the Meeker team was going to be coming to the February
Yes.
meeting.
Yes, I announced that at the beginning of the meeting that
Oh, I'm so sorry.
that's okay. The people that we needed from the team couldn't be there, so we may have to do 2 meetings in March. I'm trying to figure that out. There's a lot of holidays in March. And it's kind of a challenge. It was a challenge to find the March date, as a matter of fact, because we have Passover and all kinds of other things happening. So anywho, probably not going to be the same day as the scheduled transportation meeting, which I want to say is also the 23rd.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. But just because I don't want another marathon meeting where we're just yelling at each other for 6 hours. So
So fun.
I'm kind of sick of that. Anyway, but I
I'm
don't know.
kidding.
Okay, just a recap. I'm figuring it out. So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You know, we're literally like 7 inches above the water. So
That's
every
William again.
single time
William in that open mic.
we have to be home to make sure that we don't. And it's
Okay. Okay, so I don't think we have any more old business. We'll do new business. Paul?
Yes, I have some new business.
Lovely.
Thank you, Eric.
Also, a version of this that Paul's going to present went. It is different than the one that Paul sent earlier, but it did get distributed with the letter this morning. So if anybody had a chance to see it, anyway, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Okay. You should be able to see my screen now, right?
Yes, there it is. Got you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've been noodling over this idea and I put together a few slides to illustrate it, and I'm interested in seeing what the committee thinks about it. The focus is on what you see here, Metropolitan Avenue, sort of like right around Macri Triangle, near the BQE. And specifically, this block between Union and Meeker, there's 2 kind of like green painted segments of a bike lane on Metropolitan on the west side of the BQE, like around Marcy. And even though those 2 are not protected, they actually do kind of function pretty well. But then, of course, as soon as you cross under the BQE, then you're totally in unprotected territory. And the kind of challenge I'm trying to address is, like, if you live over, on the east side of Williamsburg by Cooper Park, and say you're riding your bike to Trader Joe's on Kent, and Google Maps will give you this route, which is, 1.9 miles, which has you kind of like zigzagging up Union and trying to find a safe way to get there. But of course, the sort of desire line is to go straight down Metropolitan, which is only 1.5 miles. That would be your most direct route. But of course, most of it is really unsafe to ride a bike. The current usage of this block, so this is specifically this, south side of Macri Triangle, between Union and the BQE. There's 2 bus stops, which you can see. And then the south side of Metropolitan is designated for NYPD parking. And the north side, even though it's not designated NYPD, it usually is NYPD vehicles parked there. And then there's also a city bike dock on that corner. So that's what is currently there. And of course, if you look at Crash Mapper, every intersection around here has recorded injuries, which you would expect considering how chaotic and dangerous Metropolitan is. So if you're on a bike or a scooter, like this guy with the pink circle, and you're coming west on Metropolitan, you kind of have to, like at Meeker, you kind of have to sort of like squeeze your way between this row of parked cars and what you can see here, like a bus, a UPS truck, another huge truck. So it's super dangerous to try to get there so you're actually kind of like visible, and so you feel somewhere kind of, you know, safe to wait for the light to change. Once traffic starts going, like you can see this huge dump truck, bus, like there's really no room. And then, and these are images also of kind of the same situation. The row of parked cars, the trucks, cement trucks. Once you get going, then you have to go under the BQE. It's dark, it kind of narrows. You have to try to make your way on this Sharrow thing. Here's a view from Google Maps, which, you know, just demonstrates exactly how mad it is to try to bike safely that way. If you're coming the other way, east on Metropolitan, like coming from the East River toward Cooper Park, this is the you know, the Kellogg Diner on the corner, and the police parking that I was talking about. So
You're heading west now. Just you said east. I just want to
yeah, sorry. Hey, you're
westbound.
heading-
Okay, just being clear.
Oh yeah, like this photo is taken, you're heading west. I guess I was thinking like if you're coming back this way, you're heading east. So yeah, right, okay. So what I put together to propose, to suggest, is that we consider asking the DOT to create protected bike lanes for this segment of Metropolitan. You can see my cursor, right, Eric? Okay. Yeah, so you've got the bus stop, and then this protected lane would allow people to actually like get safely to this corner where they can wait for the light to change. And I'm pretty sure there's like a leading pedestrian interval LPI there. So
Yeah, and there's a dedicated left turn there now. If you're heading eastbound, there's a new so it's an even longer.
if you're headed eastbound on Metro and you're turning onto Meeker, you're saying turning left.
There's a dedicated left turn light there now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is a long light, but so you so you end up having like bikes and scooters all kind of like, you know, congregating here and then racing to get through, and all the trucks are racing to turn on Marcy before the light changes and stuff. So with the LPI, then the bikes and scooters could get out ahead safely before the trucks start rolling. And then the same thing coming back, if the police parking, I'm proposing that it gets moved over here onto this side of Macri Triangle instead. That becomes designated for police parking. Then you could have protection here for bikes to get to Union, where there is a bike lane for people to use. So it would just kind of clean up this intersection, make it a lot, I mean, I know from personal experience, because I find myself biking this way all the time, how dangerous and scary and chaotic it is. And I think that this would be a much better way to sort of just organize this piece of the street and keep everyone a lot safer. So, you know, I have, if anyone's interested, I have photos of what the current, you know, parking regulations are. You know, we can look at. So this, you know, on the north side of Metro, there's no parking in the mornings for half an hour, 4 days a week for street cleaning. And then, as I mentioned, on the south side, you've got designated NYPD parking. This space right in front of Kellogg Diner, it says it's a loading zone, but you know, I think it's also just used as for NYPD parking, is what it looks like to me. Like this is NYPD van in that loading zone. And where I'm proposing the NYPD parking get moved to on Union next to Macri, I don't know. I think because there's construction, maybe everything's a little cockamamie right now. All the signs say no standing for the B48 bus, but you know, clearly there's parking, you know, all along that block. So I don't know if the no standing is just not in effect or not being enforced or what. But that's kind of the current condition. So yeah,
Paul, I'm sorry, Paul. What are the parking regs on the north on Union, where you want the cops to sit?
That's what I'm saying, only has these signs here that say no standing anytime.
On that whole,
The whole block says no
both
standing.
those pictures are Union, looking east
Yes.
and west. Is that Kellogg's in the one with the bus sign
Yeah, that's
on the
Kellogg.
corner? And that's just further, and the one on the left is just further back.
That's correct. That's correct.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, okay. And that's all it says is no standing, and
Uh,
yet there's
uh,
so
uh,
many people parked there.
Right. Just so you know, we do get a lot of complaints about cars being parked there. They're not supposed to be parked at the
Right.
bus stop. Across, I think you said Macri, across by the bus stop, a lot of the cars parked there, and we do get those complaints all the time. So no one's supposed to be parking there.
On the north side of Macri, yeah.
Right.
You can park on that southwest side. There's parking allowed there, but not for the whole stretch. And yeah, and then you have the cleaning regs on the other side. The other weird thing, I think I understand why it's like this, but if you notice, on the westbound lane, there's 2 lanes. It goes from 1 lane on the east of Metro, the east of Union, and then it goes to 2 lanes, and I think that's to allow people to make the left onto Meeker, but then also the 3-way split on to make the left onto, the right onto Meeker, and then the left onto Rodney or Marcy to get onto the BQE. I think that's why it's there, to like decongest that area. But maybe a protected thing, but that's not like prime parking on that south side of Macri, because it is that crazy, 4 hours you can't park there, so you got to move your car anyway kind of situation, and then nobody's around to like move it. I don't know. And the other thing, so that is treacherous. I mean, when I walk to work, I'm always, hyper vigilant over there. And even when I drive, I'm even more vigilant because I've seen some crazy things over there. And I'm surprised the crash map is as small. Those circles are as small as they are, considering the kind of mayhem that happens there. In terms of having DOT look at this, I don't think they'd be able to do a study until the construction MTA is done with those elevator installs, and I'm hearing from MTA is that that's not going to be finished above ground until sometime in July. So they would need to have like a clear situation on Union to kind of like put that through. I mean, I can talk to Rado about it. So let's I mean, something has to be done there, and the fix, the old Meeker Avenue fix really didn't do anything. Although, it's funny that that Google Maps takes you all the way up Union and around the park and everything else, because there is, when they came to us with the new bike lanes at this area, they were supposed to run, what was it, North 5th and North 6th, I thought.
Well, you still have to get under the BQE somehow. So
Right. But why, it's just funny why they would take you all the way to the park or up Union and not, across the BQE and then up 5th or whatever. I guess it does, right? Or that's
it gives you that option, but that's if you want to, risk your life on Metro.
Oh, it is 6th. It is 6th. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was further up for some reason. I thought it was up further. Anyway, so it does do that. Okay, good. Well, I'm not completely crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's the worst part, right? It's like is crossing that
it's
that
this.
triangle. And actually it's taking you down the console, yay. Which, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the other option is you could go North 6 to for the you know, North 6 for like to Roebling and then cut over on Roebling back to Metro. But you know, we all know that what the situation on Metro is like for cyclists. It's pretty hairy. And it makes me crazy that there's that one section from like Havemeyer to, I guess, what is it, Marcy? That's like painted green, but it just isn't practical. Like nobody rides in it. Like nobody rides in it. And then you got the bus stop there and like people, all these like Uber Eats people are like, you know, parking in there and whatever. It's just mayhem. I don't know. I'm complaining now. Sorry. But I'm complaining in support, Paul. I just
Well, I actually find that you're talking about this Havemeyer to Mercy section
yes.
here, where that new building is, where the
Yeah, well,
Capital
I guess it
Bank
goes to
used
Rodney.
to
Yeah, it
be.
goes to Rodney, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that I actually usually find to be surprisingly clear. I don't know, maybe it's just the time of day.
Once you get past like Milk Bar.
Oh yeah, before Milk Bar, it's not painted green, and
No,
there's
it's
some very
all
messed
it's all
up.
nasty. And
Yeah.
like, you know, that whole area. If I saw some knucklehead today, like a bike messenger dude, like riding down the middle of the street, and then he cut off a car to get into the bike lane, but like didn't even look. You just like, you know, and he was like Spike from Portlandia. He was like on that vibe. So, you know, if you know what those of you who know what I'm talking about. But I was just like, dude, you're gonna get yourself killed. But anyway, um,
Well,
well,
I mean,
good
the
work.
other thing
Go
I would
ahead.
add, Eric, is like
Yeah.
I don't want to be too prescriptive about like where I think the NYPD parking should go. I thought it would make sense here, but you know, clearly it could go on the other side of Metro, or you know, that could be determined by
hmm
DOT and NYPD.
Right, and you know, NYPD loves to be helpful with moving their vehicles, but we can ask. Actually, you know, the precinct entrance is right there. So once they're done with all that construction on Union, I think why so many of them are parking there, not that they didn't park there before the elevator went in, is because they lost all their parking on Union because they all used to park on that strip by Kellogg's on Union. They all parked there. Maybe you saw a van now and then on Metropolitan, but I think they're just pushed out over there. I mean, I saw the sign today. I made a point to look at it when I was over there, and there is a dedicated police parking sign. But I think they're just kind of, you know, doing what they can with all that mess, which is really, it's not as bad as Lorimer, but it's pretty messy over there. And they've got a cutout halfway down the block. It's problematic, but hopefully we only have to live that for another maybe 5 or 6 months. But anyway,
So what do you recommend for a next step? I mean, I know we can talk to Rhonda about it casually, but it would be good to kind of have something we can follow up on more formally.
sure. Well, it's funny because, you know, well, this is like we're not asking for any signal timing or anything like that. Um, but it is technically parking removal. I mean, we could ask them for a study. We could ask them for a study, but they wouldn't be able to, like I said, do it until all the MTA work goes underground. Let's do this. Let's start here. I will send this to Rhonda and maybe I can have a conversation with Craig about it. And then maybe we'll take it up in June when I have it, because I'm expecting an update from Andy Inglesby. You know, they're doing all these workshops on this bus network thing. And so, which we also have to take up, although they're actually years out. They're just talking about proactive. They're they're way ahead of like when that's going to be implemented, the new bus changes. But he was supposed to get back to me with another update sometime. I think when I spoke to him, it was like April, that they were going to talk about where they're at in going underground I'm talking about the elevator projects at Lorimer and Union. The Union one is a little less complicated than the Lorimer one because of the infrastructure, but so they may actually be underground sooner. Let me see. Let me circle back to Andy and see if he thinks they're going to be underground at Union faster. And then let's take this up again. Let's take this up again in June. And then, other things might occur to you. We can update it. But in the meantime, I'll share it with Rhonda, and she can like throw it over to Craig and Ted Wright and those cats and see if they have any. They're probably going to wince in pain because like we send them things all the time, but that's what we do. Anyway, but good work, Paul, as usual, and thanks. I would love to see this this whole area cleaned up. It is super treacherous. So yeah, if that worked for you.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
Okay. All right. Any other new business? We don't
Actually, I do have one other small piece of new business.
Go ahead.
If no
Go
one
ahead.
else does. Also relates to Trader Joe's. I was talking to the manager at Trader Joe's the other day because they have bike parking in their garage, and I was talking to them about how it could be made a little bit better. And they told me that they had put in a request for some bike racks outside the store as well, and haven't been able to really get anywhere with DOT. So I was wondering if we could push at all, on their behalf to get some racks either on Kent or whatever that street is right next to Trader Joe's.
Huh. That's interesting because like they love to throw bike racks around. In fact, they put a useless one on the corner of Havemeyer and Metro that nobody uses. And it's like it's on Havemeyer on the the west side of the street. And it's just the dumbest thing and it also is infuriating because as somebody who delivers catering, it's right in front of our business, and we're like, ugh, it really made it extra complicated. And it's never used. I never see a single bike tied to it, never, ever. So anyway, but I would love for them to put bike rack. It makes sense for them to put them over at Trader Joe's. Let me ask Rhonda if she has a ticket for it. And maybe we can get that going.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Okay, any other new business? All right, people. Well, that was a light agenda, but a typical 2 hours. But that's the nature of the beast. Oh, I see. Oh, hands all of a sudden. Right at the 11th hour. Okay, so I see 2 hands up. We'll do Teodora Scarrato, and then we'll do Miss Wilkins.
Great. Sorry, I didn't know when public comment was, so.
It's kind of a open mic kind of situation. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Theodora Scarrato. I'm Executive Director of Environmental Health Trust. We are a scientific nonprofit. I work with scientists around the world on the issue of environmental health, and our focus now is on wireless radiation, actually. So I'm glad to send more information with science and resources, but I'm here to talk about the 5G poles and request that there be a meeting to have a presentation on this issue because of the numerous published peer-reviewed studies indicating that the current limits that we have, the FCC limits, are not safe. We actually sued the federal government several years ago because they decided that they wouldn't change their 1996 limits, which were actually set based on science going back years before, which are only based on heat, on protecting against heat. And the court, we had a favorable ruling where the court ruled that the FCC had to basically show their work because they had not shown their work. They need to show that children's vulnerability is protected, that long-term exposure, issues of long-term exposure are addressed because the current limits we have are for short-term acute exposures based on studies where they exposed animals, small animals, in fact, under 20, for under an hour of exposure, not for the kind of exposures we're getting with the current infrastructure. So I would be glad to, oh, and also environmental issues were not addressed by the FCC. They've been ordered to address that, as well as the modern technology that we have. We have numerous devices, right? This is going to add even more to what we already have. And I am glad to do a presentation. I know Odette is here too. She is in a separate group, but I'm glad she can fill you in on the other boards and what they've been doing as well. Thank you so much. And I can put my email in the chat somehow, but I don't see one. But it's theodora.scarrato@ehtrust.org. Can't hear.
There we go. Thank you for bringing this up. I saw the report, not from your organization, but I saw the press on it. I guess it was 2 days ago. There was a kind of a press flurry about it. Maybe you released your report that day, and it was getting play in the news. But it came up on my social feeds, and I saw it on New York One as well. So
Yeah, I
good
don't know
work.
if it was mine.
I don't know, but it was definitely, the press releases went out and the outlets picked it up. So the word is getting out there. And I mean, I guess my social feeds are kind of triggered towards environmental and things like that, but even so, it was out there. So if Ms. Wilkins, you're going to speak on the same topic, I'm going to hear from you, and then I'm going to make a recommendation.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Good evening. I'm Odette Wilkins, and I'm President and General Counsel of Wired Broadband, a nonprofit focusing on safe technology for the public. I'm also a technology attorney and have been for over 20 years. Therefore, I know the benefits of technology and the risks. And there are many risks associated with wireless radiation and with the Link 5G cell towers in particular. These Link 5G cell towers are 3 stories high, and you have 9 slated for your district, 6 new ones for which there needs to be feedback to OTI. That's the new name for Do It. And 3, which that's March 4th. And then 3 old ones, which are past due in terms of providing comments. But we would recommend that you provide comments for all 9. There have been community boards around the city that have been disapproving and declaring moratoria on these cell towers. And there's been a lot of considerations: aesthetics, ill placement in historic districts, lack of privacy and security, rat infestations on existing Link NYC kiosks, and health issues related to exposure to wireless radiation. There's also a fire hazard risk because cell towers do catch on fire and 5G runs very hot. And there's also an insufficient fall zone. Usually there needs to be a fall zone at least the height of the tower. So that would be 3 stories circumference around the tower. They can put it as close as 10.6 feet to any structure. So it can, so cell towers are known to also collapse. And so if they collapse into a building and into your home, onto the street, into schools, so that it becomes a bit of a hazard. So our recommendation is that you follow the lead on with there are about 8 community boards who have disapproved and who have declared moratoria, and there are many more that are on the way, and I'm working with a number of them. So our recommendation is for board resolutions for disapproval and moratoria on all Link 5G installations in your district in order to protect your residents. And we're also putting together a town hall with many of the community boards in order to learn more about the risks associated with Link 5G and wireless radiation in general.
Okay, thank you. Have you reached out to our council people here, either Councilmember Gutierrez or Councilmember Ressler?
Councilmember Gutierrez is the chair of the Committee on Technology.
Right.
And I've been communicating with her office now several times in order to figure out how to give testimony because it's I can't figure it out on the website. And so I'm trying to make a headway there in order to put it on the agenda because they only really want to have testimony based on the items on the agenda. And we want to see what procedure we need to do in order to place it on the agenda. Because the next thing on the agenda is about the film industry. And the one in March is going to be about the budget. So we need to put this, so we need to, really focus on this front and put a focus on it front and center for the technology committee, but then there's also many other committees that this could also be put in front of, such as public safety, health, environment, and so forth.
Right. Okay, well, thank you for bringing this to our committee. I happen to sit on the Environmental Protection Committee with William Vega. Paul, you on that committee? No. Surprisingly, Paul is not on that committee, but he's there in spirit. Now, when you mentioned that March date for the new towers, is that the public comment period, or is that they're getting installed in March?
No, that's the time deadline for you to give feedback to OTI, and for the Public Design Commission.
March what?
March 4th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I would recommend that you ask for an extension of time, and they do give extensions of time, so that we can present. Theodora and I can present on give you a full presentation as we've done with other community boards regarding this issue.
Okay. William, I don't know if you can hear me. You can't hear me. I don't remember seeing an agenda for the next environmental committee meeting, but I'll tell you what. Do you have the board email? Our board email address? Either Ms. Wilkins or Ms. Sacrato?
Yes, I do have your board email address.
Okay, please do this. Please, so I noticed you were reading, and that's actually useful. So if you have statements prepared, short statements, and you want to submit them to the board office, so submit them to the board office to the Transportation Committee's attention.
Okay.
I will make them part of the record for my report.
Okay.
But then I will forward please include your contact information so that I can forward this to the chair of the Environmental Protection Committee, who I don't know the two craziest committees growing is mine and land use and then environmental. It's starting to heat up over there. So but let me get this on his radar, and I can shoot him an email in the meantime and just say, hey, there's some people that want to talk 5G. He's a tech guy, so he will understand this at a granular level, and hopefully he can put it on the agenda. Not before March 4th though, but we just asked for the Army Corps to extend the public comment on their ridiculous wall idea. That won't happen for a generation, but we got to fight now. Anyway, so and I believe we were successful with getting that out. So so please send whatever prepared, prepared, like 300 words, something like under 300 words. Send it to me for the record. I'll put it in and I'll forward it to the Environmental Protection Committee.
Okay, that's excellent. And also I have a written submission to provide you and the district manager. It's a full written submission on a number of all of these issues, as well as addenda of the actual moratoria resolutions that CBA put forth, so that you have it as an example.
Okay, well, actually, if you want to put a more substantive packet together, well, send me what you read tonight, and I will put that in the record for my committee. But if you have a more substantial packet that you'd like to share, and giving us guidance what other boards are doing throughout the city, go ahead and send that to the same email to the attention of the Environmental Protection Committee, and that will get forwarded, and Steve can dig into it.
Okay, and so in terms of my comments tonight, I'm going to send it to the district manager with the attention to the Transportation Committee.
Yes, we are without a district manager at the moment.
Okay.
We have Joanna, who's our assistant district manager, who's holding the fort down, like a trooper. But
anything should be addressed to chair folder.
Yes,
Um,
right.
Eric, I sent this email, I think it was yesterday. They're sending notifications about this proposed 5G poles attachment, and they're only giving 15 days from the day that you get the notice to comment. It was sent to the full board. It was yesterday. It was sent to the full board yesterday, and they're planning to put one on Lorimer Street and Stagg Street and Skull Street.
Right. That's the one that came from the city though, yeah?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. Is
Yeah, yeah,
OTI changed their name? Do it change their name to OTI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they've been giving 60 days to the community boards. I'm very surprised that they're giving 15 days to you.
Well, I'm not.
Okay.
We're getting metered parking that we only found out about at the last minute. So yeah, sometimes we get forgotten. Nevertheless,
Eric, this is William. Were you trying to
Yes,
get hold
sir.
of me?
yeah, Steve didn't put out an agenda for the next meeting yet, did he?
I don't know
I
where.
guess I could have asked
I'll
Joanna,
talk
but
to
I don't.
We're both attending Congresswoman's meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers. So when we finish the meeting, I'll talk to him. Okay.
Okay. It's yeah. I'll follow up with him tomorrow, but we're just talking 5G towers and we want to extend the deadline for public comment and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway,
Okay.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Are we going to vote on anything right now, or
no, you're good.
Okay. Good night, all. I got to go at this meeting. Bye bye.
Bye, William. Thanks, brother.
Eric, I don't have
Uh,
anything, a date for
Yeah,
Mr. Chester.
I don't think, oh, good. Okay. So good. Send this in. And I'll follow up with Steve tomorrow.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for having us.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for sitting through the transportation committee. Not as fiery as they usually are, but anyway. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. If there is no other new business, going once, twice. Okay, we will adjourn. Thanks everybody for hanging out and for doing that good work. And we'll see you next month. Bye.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Joanna. Thanks, Paul. Bye. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.